welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do something very fun. I am going to share with you guys the makeup products from the drugstore that I would buy for you. These are truly some of the things that I recommend the most to people when I get asked questions about makeup products from the drugstore. I'm going to share that with you today, and we're going to actually put it all to the test. So I hope you guys are excited about this one. This is the final look that we will be creating with my drugstore makeup products I am hypothetically purchasing for you. I'm very excited about it, as you can tell. Before we get into the makeup, a special welcome to any of you that are new here. Thank you for stopping by. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Make sure those notifications are turned on. And now let's get right into it. So we're gonna jump right in with the foundation. I skip a primer. I don't often get asked what primer I use, and I feel like it's kind of a more advanced step, one that you can skip. A couple that I do recommend if you are looking for a primer, or that I would buy for you if you have dry skin, are the Pacifica Vegan Collagen Primer or the Flower Beauty Priming Whip. Today we're just gonna jump right in with a foundation. So the foundation I would buy for you if you were asking for a recommendation is the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Foundation. I know this foundation, and really any foundation, is not always going to work for everyone. There are some people that don't like this, but I personally really like it, and I think it's a pretty versatile foundation. It's buildable, so if you use a smaller amount, you can get more of a light, medium coverage. It's pretty lightweight, but if you want heavier coverage from it, you can use just a little bit more. I actually prefer applying this one with a brush, but if I was buying makeup for you guys, I would also buy you this sponge from Wet n Wild. I've repurchased this sponge so many times. One of the things I really like about not just this foundation, but L'Oreal foundations is I like how their color range is set up. I feel like for a drugstore foundation, they have a pretty good range from light to dark, different undertones, and not all drugstore brands have the kind of range that I think L'Oreal has. Generally speaking, I feel like you get better range from higher end brands than you do from drugstore brands. So that's about 2.5 pumps. I use a lot more product when I'm using a sponge. That's just one thing to be aware of, especially if your foundation is really runny, and this is a more runny foundation. So just keep that in mind. Using a sponge with your foundation will waste a little bit or use a little bit more. By the way, the shade I use is 425 Linen, and also if you have drier skin, as I do, make sure that you do use a moisturizer underneath this, or it can be a tad bit drying. Moving on to concealer. This one probably won't surprise you guys. If I was to buy your concealer for you or recommend a concealer for you from the drugstore, I would go with the Physicians Formula Butter Glow Concealer. I love this stuff. I really like the Flower Beauty Serum Concealer as well, but this one is still my favorite concealer currently at the drugstore. Their shade range is terrible, so just keep that in mind, but this one I'm using is light medium, by the way, which is just a good basic kind of neutral undertone. It's not too warm or too pink or cool. I just love the formula of this one. It has really good coverage. It's hydrating, but it's also not gonna slip and slide around too much. So I'm just gonna tap that in with my sponge. I also love the subtle scent to this concealer. It's not so strong that I feel like if you have a sensitive sense of smell, or if your skin is sensitive, I don't feel like it would bother you too much. Okay, now we're gonna set that down with a little bit of powder. If I was buying a powder from the drugstore for you, I would pick up the Rimmel Stay Matte powder. This is such a good universal powder for those of you that have dry skin and are more sensitive to a lot of powder products on your face, drying things out. This one is very sheer and lightweight. I don't feel like it has much coverage. I have the transparent one. I've also used one of the, I can't remember what shade I had before this pan right here, but I also felt like that one was really lightweight as well. I'm gonna set that down lightly everywhere, and now let's move on to bronzer next. So the bronzer I would pick up for you at the drugstore is the Milani Silky Matte Bronzer. I have shade number 2. I originally owned shade number 1, which was much too light for me. I didn't mind the formula of that one, but it would be much more suited for those with very fair skin. This is good for those with light medium skin tones, and it's just a really good basic bronzer. It's not too warm or it's not too ashy. Really nice buildable formula, which I love. I thought about recommending the Butter Bronzer from Physicians Formula. I have the newer version of that one, and I kind of feel like the formula is a little bit different than the older one that I had. It's a little bit more loosely pressed, which I don't like that very much. While I like the formula of the bronzer itself, it blends well. It's a little bit messier to use. This one's much more firmly pressed, which I kind of like. I like being able to really get my brush in there without getting too much product on my brush or too much kick up in the pan. I'm going a little heavy on the bronzer today because my foundation is a little bit too light for me right now. There we go, looking better already. Let's add some blush. So the blush that I would buy for you, this is a brand new blush to me, but I have so been loving this blush in just the few short weeks that I've had it. It's the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blush. This one is in the shade Berry Cheeks. I have another shade of this that I did not like. The shade Shimmery Rose is way too light for me. It barely showed up on me at all. It was almost a little too like milky white based for my skin tone. So I really did not like this one, but I picked up the shade 8 Berry Cheeks and I am in love with this blush, you guys. It's such a great formula. It's a beautiful color. I feel like it would work for a lot of different skin tones, at least from like medium to fair, just depending on how much you layer it up. But I really love the formula of this. It's got a very soft sheen to it. Now, if it was spring, I would maybe buy you something else or buy you a different shade. At least they did have a really pretty corally looking shade that I want to go back and try. Okay, let's add some highlighter. So the highlighter that I would buy for you is the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter. Now, personally, my personal favorite highlighter from the drugstore is the Revlon Skin Lights highlighter. That one is a pretty intense highlighter though that I don't know that everyone would love, because I know not everyone loves something blinding. I think that one might scare some people away. This is such a good highlighter because I feel like whether you like something more natural or something more intense, it's a very flexible one. You can build it if you need to. It has a really pretty soft sheen, but it's not so weak that it doesn't show up on the skin. And it's also been one of the highlighters, if I ever get questions about highlighters from people, this is the one that I always recommend first. I feel like it would work for a lot of different levels, like whether you're a beginner or a little bit more advanced. This is a highlighter I feel like anybody could use and not screw up. Okay, cheeks are done. Don't they look nice? Let's move on to the brows. Now this one was tricky. I initially thought that I would pick the $2 brow pencil from e.l.f. This is the brow pencil that I often recommend to people that are just starting out in makeup or getting started in brows, mostly because it's so affordable and easy to get your hands on. But I have to say, you guys, I pulled this out the other day and used it again. And I just don't like this brow pencil anymore, especially if you're a little bit more advanced. And even if you're not, I do think that you have a lot more control using a slim brow pencil. So I wanted to share with you guys, or buy for you guys, this one right here. This is from Revolution. This is the Blade Brow. I picked this up at my Walmart. It was super affordable. In fact, almost as affordable as the e.l.f. one. I think it was $2.98. I absolutely love this brow pencil. It's a really good consistency. It's a slim brow pencil, but it's more of a rectangular shape, and it's very nice and stiff, which I really like. It has a really good stiff spoolie on it, which I love. It's actually a much better spoolie than the e.l.f. one includes. So that's the one that we are going to use today. That's the one that I would buy for you if I was buying you a brow pencil. There are some other ones that I've tried at the drugstore. I like the Ulta Beauty one, you guys know. It's much more expensive than this one. That one's $10, and I actually think I even like the consistency of this one a little bit more than the Ulta one. However, the shade range of these is probably not great. So I have the shade Brown, which is a good ashy mid-tone brown that I feel like would work for those with darker hair than me. But if you use a light hand and you're more of a blonde, you could probably get this one to work for you. Honestly, this spoolie, don't underestimate a really good spoolie when you're doing your brows. I love a good spoolie that really grabs your eyebrows, especially if you have unruly, kind of stubborn brows that don't like to go where you want them to. So maybe a little bit darker of a brow for me, but I still love this brow pencil. Okay, there we have it. And then I would also buy for you the Essence Brow Styling Soap Set. I love this stuff, you guys. I actually need to buy another one for myself. I've seriously hit pan on this one. So I'm just gonna dampen this little spoolie. By the way, don't throw away the spoolie. I almost threw my spoolie away when I first got this, thinking it looked really gimmicky and weak, but I actually do use the spoolie that it comes with. It's kind of nice to keep it in there, and it's not a terrible, it's not as bad of a spoolie as it looks. I mean, it's tiny, but the bent size really helps getting into the pan, and it is nice and stiff, which I like. The trick with this product, you just want to make sure that your brush is not too wet or too dry, and that you don't have too much product, too much of the soapy product on the brush, or it will look a little bit kind of white and waxy in your brows. But other than that, I think this does a really good job at grabbing your eyebrows and keeping them in place. Once that soap kind of dries down, it really does not go anywhere. Okay, I feel like my brows look a little bit large and caterpillar-like today, but I have to say, I kind of like it. So I'd probably also buy you an eyelash curler if you did not own one. Actually, this one's from Sephora. This is what I buy you, the e.l.f. eyelash curler. This is a pretty good eyelash curler. I've had mine for years. I buy the little refill packets at just my drugstore all the time. And I even use those refill packets in my Sephora curler, which I do prefer. This one's a little bit smaller, so it fits my smaller eye. But I like the e.l.f. one because it's kind of more flat. It's not so like rounded. So if you have more of like a flat contour to your eye, I think it works for more eye shapes. Now for eyeshadow palette. So this one was kind of fun. Now I wanted to mention the Wet n Wild Color Icon eyeshadow palette in Nude Awakening. This is one that I often recommend to people that are just starting out in makeup. This specific palette and color story is perfect for any level, whether you're a beginner or a little bit more advanced. You can get anything from a really soft, simple, natural look to a really deep, beautiful smoky eye. It's a great, great palette that I would recommend. But if I was actually buying your makeup, I would want to buy something that I get very excited about, that I feel like is a little bit underrated. So I would buy you the Fill and Bubbly palette from ColourPop. Now this is a warmer toned eyeshadow palette. When I first started raving about this palette, I did hear back from a few of you saying that palette was way warmer than what I thought it would be after you talked about it or used it. I love a warm palette though, and you guys, this has 4 of the best shimmers that I think ColourPop has ever put in their palettes. They are absolutely gorgeous. The formulas are beautiful. The colors are beautiful. So we're going to use this one today because this is what I would be excited to buy you if I was actually buying your makeup. Plus the packaging is a little bit better. As much as I love the Wet n Wild Color Icon palettes, the packaging kind of sucks. So this is the one we're going to use today. Let me show you guys what this beautiful little palette can do. Let's start off in this shade right here, kind of the more pinky nude shade. This is the shade Blaine Slate. Is that can't be right? Oh, B-L-A-N-C. That's not an E. What a weird font. This is the shade Blank Slate, blank with a C. I'm gonna throw this all through the crease. By the way, it was 29 degrees at the bus stop this morning with Charlie. Oh man. She's in 1st grade this year, and it got me thinking, you know, am I a sucker if I drive her to the bus stop every morning? I feel like I should toughen it up and just walk her to the bus stop, but you guys, I don't know that I can do it. It was so cold. I had my coat on and everything and just standing there. It made me admire my kids who have always ridden the bus, and their bus stops, all my boys, have always been, I mean, not far away, like a block away from our house. So them having to stand out in the cold for years and never complaining, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with my kids not complaining about the cold, because I would complain about it. Okay, now we're gonna darken things up just a little bit with this shade right here. This is Clink Clink. Same brush, just on the very tip. We're gonna concentrate this just on the outer corner. Do kind of like a warm, smoky eye today with this palette. And then we're gonna take a smaller blending brush with that same shade. Gonna run that under just the outer third of the lower lash line. Then we're gonna go in with a, let's see, actually let's go with that same smaller blending brush. These brushes are from Sydney Grace, by the way. And we're gonna take the deepest matte, this dark brown right here, get a grape, and focus this right at the lash line on the outer corner. If you like more of a natural look, you could probably just stop here. If you like a little bit more depth and smokiness, maybe for more like a date night kind of dressed up look. Beautiful, beautiful brown. Love that. I'm gonna go back to my larger blending brush. Doesn't have anything on it. I'm just running it around the edge of this deeper brown just to make sure it's nice and blended. And then one more time back to that sponge, sharpen up that edge. All right, and now for the shimmers. This is where this palette really shines, pun intended. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. So we're gonna go in with this middle shade right here. This is the shade Noted. It's kind of like a rose gold, very sparkly. And tap that all over the center of the lid. Same on the other side. Seriously, you guys, this formula is just dreamy. Wish all ColourPop shimmer formulas were like this. It's a drier formula than the Super Shock shimmer formulas, which I do like, but but I feel like this one's a little bit more impactful. But it's not overly chunky either. It's just really pretty. Okay, now we're gonna take, for the inner part of the lid, I'm gonna take this shade. Ooh, let's see. So this shade's gonna be very like in your face, sparkly and icy and white, a little bit more dramatic. Let's go with this one down here, which is more kind of a silvery taupe. For that, let's put that on with a brush. We're gonna take this flat brush right here. I'm just gonna place this on the inner third of the lid and overlap that rose gold shade. Okay, and last but not least, not that I really need to do this for a daytime look, but just to show you guys what this shade can do, let's take a little bit of the champagne, pop off the lightest color in here. I'm gonna dampen this little pinpoint brush. We're very lightly going to put this right on that inner tear duct, right here. Okay, I would probably stop there, but I'm gonna put just a tiny bit of this matte white shade right here on my brow bone. Let's go back to that small blending brush. I'm gonna wipe it off really well. Just take a tiny bit of this matte white. I don't often do this because I have such a massive brow bone. I don't feel like I need to highlight it, but if you have a smaller brow bone, I would recommend highlighting underneath your brow. All right, and there's the finished eyeshadow. You guys see why I would be so excited to buy you this palette. I think it's stunning. I know it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I feel like you could probably say that about anything when you're buying makeup for other people. Of course, you guys know I would have to buy you one of these, the Wet n Wild Simma Brown Now pencil. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this on my waterline. I just sharpened this one. Oh my gosh, I almost over sharpened it. Be careful. All right, and now the mascara that I would buy you. This one's kind of hard. It was between two, my Flower Beauty Dream Warrior, which I'm really loving right now, but I would probably buy you the Sky High mascara from Maybelline. This is such a good mascara that I often recommend because I feel like a lot of people would get along with this mascara. It's not too clumpy, it's easy to work with, it doesn't like clump, it doesn't flake, it wears really well, it's very water resistant. And when I'm getting asked about mascara, it's often because someone's maybe finding a hard time finding a mascara that doesn't run or flake on them, that stays in place all day long. And this is, I think, the best formula at the drugstore for that. I, on occasion, fall asleep in my makeup for science purposes, to test things out for you guys, not because I'm lazy. But seriously, there's been a few times that I've fallen asleep in my mascara with this on, and the next morning I wake up and it looks like I freshly applied my mascara, even though it's been on for 24 hours. I mean, this stuff just holds up so incredibly well. Even when my eyes are very watery, if I'm watching baseball games in the springtime, I can get away with wearing this mascara that technically is not waterproof. It's just water resistant, but it just wears so well. Maybe it's just me. I know there's been mascaras in the past that have worked really well for me that other people say smudge and flake on them. So there obviously is some variability depending on who you are, what works for you, maybe how oily your skin is. That might be an issue. I have very dry skin, so oily eyelids or under eyes are not really an issue for me, but I just feel like this is just such a good basic mascara. And does pretty good things for my lashes too. It makes them relatively thick and long. It's very nice and black. I currently have the Cosmic Black one. I usually just buy the black version, but they were out of stock the last time I went to buy this, so I actually don't see much of a difference between the two. Let me finish applying this and then I'll be right back. And the eyes are all finished. Last up is the lips. Here's what I would buy for you or recommend for your lips. First off, the LA Girl Ultimate Intense Wear Auto Liner in Nonstop Nude. I personally think this is the best drugstore long wearing lip liner. It has a slightly waxier formula than two other ones that I would also recommend. The one from Essence, this one I think is a little bit more creamy, and the LA Girl Shockwave, which I also like these, but this one I feel like is a little bit more waxy. So if you have a lot of vertical lines in your lips or just need something a little bit on the stiffer side, this is a great one. I still wouldn't call it a stiff lip liner, not in the way that like a MAC or like a NYX lip liner is. Still nice and creamy, but it is long wearing, which is the number one most important thing to me when I'm picking a lip liner. I feel like it's a good basic nude shade. It's not too light or too dark. It's not too pink or too peach and warm. It's just a good basic color. It's kind of the color of my lips when they're healthy, but a little bit darker. Okay, and last but not least, I would buy you a Maybelline Lifter Gloss. I think this is the drugstore's best lip gloss as far as how it wears, its packaging, its smell, which is very pleasant. It even tastes really nice and sweet. I mean, don't eat your lip gloss. I don't eat my lip gloss, but once in a while, if you get a little trace, kind of a pleasant surprise. I have the shade Opal. You guys know I love this shade. It's just a good universal, sheer, lightly sparkly pink color. Looks good on top of anything. Now, I did not recommend a lipstick. Maybe you were wondering about that, but I have just not been in much of a lipstick mood lately. I really just do a lip liner and a lip gloss. That's kind of as far as I feel like I need to go. The liner gives me color. It lasts longer than a lipstick does, and then the gloss on top is all I feel like I need. So one more thing I want to do, not because you would need to do this, I'm gonna go back to the highlighter that I use. I'm gonna take a fluffy brush. Let me take this one. I'm just gonna add a little bit to the center of my lips. Just a little trick I like to do to brighten up the center of your lips. So that is everything, you guys. These are all the makeup products that I would buy for you if I was buying your drugstore makeup. Honestly, a lot of these are the things that I personally recommend to people when they're asking me for a new lip gloss or a bronzer that might work for them, or maybe a new mascara that's not gonna run. These are the things that I recommend to people and that I would buy for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if there were any surprises in here for you. We were surprised by some of these. Now, I wanna say these aren't necessarily my favorite things from the drugstore. They're some of my favorite things, but like they're not my number one favorite things. If we're being technical, which why we're being so technical, it's just makeup. Everybody calm down. Hope you guys found this video fun and helpful. I had so much fun filming this one. I'm very happy with the finished makeup look. Hopefully I sold you on that ColourPop palette. That one truly is one of my very favorites. But thank you guys so much for watching today. Let me give you one final reminder. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so before you leave, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. By the way, I logged into YouTube this morning. I have had this on my calendar for like 2 weeks, and I noticed that Allie Glines did a similar video, but with Sephora. I swear I didn't steal her idea. We just had the same incredible ideas.